So I wanted to talk about the phenomena of Japa that's known in Nigeria. And that's a Yoruba word that basically means to take off, get out of somewhere. And it's not a new phenomenon. It's just gained a lot more prominence with the current generation of, I would say, older Gen Z, millennial generation, and maybe some youngest Gen Xers. So basically, I would say between the 25 and 50 crowd, but really more like I would say 45. Yeah, let's say 25 to 45. And it's the same idea as ever, leaving where you're from to a place for better economic opportunity. And there are some people that have a decent knowledge of Nigeria, a lot of knowledge of Nigeria, and little to no knowledge. But the crux of it is that the economic powerhouse that was once Nigeria, which, at least in my lifetime, hit its heights in the mid 80s, is now a shadow of that. I think the bank rate for the Naira is, using the dollar as a benchmark, is about $1 to, I want to say, 12 to 1300 Naira. And that has exploded from, I want to say, the 400 to 500 it was when I was last there just 3 years ago. And it's disheartening. It's understandable why people want to leave for better economic pastures. Ooh, I stalled out. The problem is that these other places that individuals go to are in themselves not the bastions of economic opportunity for immigrants they once were. So I'm primarily in the United States, and we probably broadcast our lives, news, the way things are going further than most other places I know. So we're back from the gas station, and as I was saying, the countries where these Nigerians go to aren't the powerhouses they once were. Leaving Nigeria to come to the United States in the mid 80s, the 90s, or even early 2000s is very different from trying to do that today. Very different. Okay? Very different. It's not as welcoming today. And this is not even just for Nigerians emigrating to other countries. This happens in other sub-Saharan countries as well. And the world is not as sympathetic, at least populations, as they were to such immigrants. Unlike, what's up? Unlike their governments once were. You know, you're having a lot more pushback because of the combination of real and managed encumbrances those trying to come to those countries bring. And, you know, you can see it on the news. But more specifically, people are learning that, Nigerians are learning that coming to these countries, whether it's UK, Germany, the United States of America is not the rose-scented garden it once was. People are finding out after spending a lot of resources selling their house, selling property, borrowing money, whatever, and then taking the risk to come here, finding out that they have a whole new set of problems. Have a whole new set of problems. It's not as easy as maybe just landing here, getting a job, and then slowly working over 7, 10, 15 years to build something. They're finding out it's a lot rougher. They deal with things they may not have had to deal before in terms of how they're received. And then in a lot of cases, they end up, for those who don't make it through that gauntlet of challenges, they end up at best going back home to Nigeria and having to restart. Somewhere in the middle, they end up being negatively impacted by the government or system they are attempting to be a part of. And you can see that in cases where individuals might run afoul, unintentionally or intentionally, run afoul of the system, get into situations when they are detained, incarcerated, deported, end up on the downside of public assistance. And it can really be, for a lot of these Nigerians, a lot more wretched than remaining in Nigeria. To be clear, I thoroughly understand and empathize, as well as sympathize, with being in an environment like Nigeria, and because of the circumstances, understanding that remaining there is not tenable for one's future survival. The despair that comes from seeing the realities of how government is providing or not providing for you as a member of its citizenry, and understanding that for your survival you have to do something. Now, this is even more compounded if you have a wife, if you have a family, if you're a single parent, whatever the case may be. And not to mention, what if you have extended family, your parents, depending on where they are, may need support as well, or siblings as well. How does that fit into this whole Japa? I personally have been telling Nigerians for decades, come here to the United States if you must, but realize it's not the streets of gold that once were believed to have been here. There never really were streets of gold, but it can be really hard. It's just not always apparent from the outside looking in. And the pushback I would get from a lot of Nigerians would be like, well, should be the born you here, you be here, you have opportunity, then you're not understanding. I said, okay. I tell them, okay, just don't wait 20 years, 30 years to find out at the end of the day, with all you're getting, you did not get understanding, and realize that you're basically not any better in the totality of things than if you had stayed in Nigeria or even gone elsewhere that is more favorable to an immigrant, or like a lot of people do, my parents have done in different parts of their life in different ways, is you come to the United States or UK or whatever, you make your money, you build, you maybe put a little back towards whatever you have set up in Nigeria for your future. So you're basically having a dual country standard, and you kind of build it that way. Anyway, I'm at where I'm supposed to be, and thank you for listening.